On this week's GTA 6 o'clock, official website causes trailer 2 confusion, the secret of the in-game social media clips, and is the map expanding a lot further north? It's all here on this week's GTA 6 o'clock. Hello and welcome to episode 15 of GTA 6 o'clock. Exciting things to talk about this week, including, as you just heard, what the in-game social media clips in the trailer tell us, and some delightful strangers and freaks chat. So before we get into that, let me say hello, I'm James Jarvis, JJ, and joining me is, of course, Dan Dawkins, DD.
D to the D, hello.
Wow, okay, going D to the D this week. Thank you to everyone who has watched previous episodes. Thank you to all who have subscribed to the channel. If you haven't done that yet, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. And thank you to everyone who's left a review on the Spotify apps. If you haven't done that yet and you're listening over there, please go and do that. Last week, Dan, some things to catch up on. Lots of people very into the idea of having weapons in the trunk of cars that we talked about. And there's also references to a duffel bag in the leaks, which could be used to transport bigger or higher number of weapons. Allegedly, rumours, speculation, all of those things. Thoughts?
Well, I thought the comments last week on the show were really interesting because I guess it changed my perspective to what I thought Rockstar might be planning. What I did not like was the idea of you have to physically go back to your car to collect your big weapons. Like I said, that would be deeply annoying because it would be deeply annoying. But what a lot of people have said this week is, and I think this is actually a very smart way to do it, is imagine your car or the duffel bag will link to a kind of inventory that sits in the cloud.
Yeah.
So the access to the weapons within it is instant. That was my beef. But the actual amount of stuff you can store in it is finite. So there's, say you've got a duffel bag of a certain size, the flywheel you access with weaponry is a certain size. With a bigger duffel bag, that flywheel is, say, bigger. Or with a bigger car, that inventory wheel is bigger. So in the game, your ability to access those weapons is instant, but the breadth of them is tied to your hard equipment stores. Does that make sense?
It makes sort of sense. We're sort of talking a Resident Evil style system where you only have so many slots in your box and you have to decide if you're taking 3 lots of red herbs or the rocket launcher.
Yeah, and like a lot of games do this equipment inventory system where you usually upgrade your haversack to contain more potions and that kind of thing. Like a GTA version of that where a very large van would allow you to store a lot more automatic weapons, or a duffel bag would allow you to contain different bits of kit. I agree that adds a fun element of strategic planning to what you put in your inventory for different missions. But as I say, my beef was I did not want to physically have to walk back to a location to collect weapons. But I think this approach of, you know, the things you can access via your instant menu is tied to, you know, a notional size of duffel bag or car. That actually, to me, makes a lot of sense and I think would be a good idea.
Well, let us know your thoughts, if you have any more thoughts about that in the comments, of course. And also, we have some hot news, almost breaking news. Some kind of, you know, nice audio sting would be good there. Beep, 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 almost breaking news. And I say almost breaking news because last week it looked like this was hot news. Now it's become less so hot news. There was a lot of confusion around Rockstar's website this week. There's lots of accounts online and forum posts suggesting that the videos tab on Rockstar's site for GTA 6 has changed from saying just watch trailer 1 to videos. And then people have taken that to say, hold up, if they're changing it to say videos, that means another video is coming. Trailer 2, get excited. What has actually happened is that change, I think, happened back in December. So for a long time, it's always said videos. And I think that people are maybe getting a bit, you know, desperately want some more information and are looking at things that aren't actually there. Does it mean Trailer 2 is on the horizon based on that? No, because it's been there for a long time. I don't think it has any impact on when we're going to see the trailer. But, as I've said before on this podcast, I do think we will see something, whether it's a trailer or just some screenshots, on or before or around May 14th, which is when the next Take-Two call is due, when they report their end-of-year financials, which is when we'll probably get an indication for how far off GTA 6 is. And I suspect that there might be a bit of a delay announced then, but to tide us over, we'll get, and here is some assets.
Yes, so Rockstar's next earnings call, which is their Q4 2020-24. I said 2020-2024. That's wrong.
24 to 25.
Yeah, so the Q4 2020-2024, oh my God, that's easy for you to say, is in the week of May 15th to May 20th. Last year they did it on a Wednesday, which would be May 15th this year. What's telling is in the last earnings call they did in February, Lainey Goldstein, who's their CFO, their Chief Financial Officer, they were talking about the financial projections for the year ahead, and Lainey had said, our pipeline is groundbreaking for next year and beyond. Teams are making excellent progress on game development, and nothing material has changed with regard to the lifetime value of our portfolio. And then the key bit, we'll provide our initial outlook for fiscal year 2025 when we report our Q4 and full fiscal year 24 results in May. So what they're confirming is they've talked in a abstract way about their expected earnings for next year, but this is when they're going to put some, I guess, meat on the horse and actually put some numbers.
Meat on the horse.
That's the phrase everyone in finance uses. Don't check it. That's what in space year 2020-2024 they'll all be saying meat on the horse. It's been a long week, night life.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as you say, the key point here is in May we will get something a little bit more concrete around where their financials are going, which then relates to when GTA.
So if there was bad news, as in the game was falling out of fiscal year 25, that would reflect in a massive hit to the numbers they put forward, we think. And as a result, one way to soften that blow would be to go, here's a beautiful new trailer announcing the delay, which has just been in our financials, which is less public facing. So there's some good news in amongst what's sort of bad news.
So, based on that, only around 60 days to go before we get some new stuff. Get excited, mark it in your calendars. Let's begin the countdown. As we did last week, it was the countdown to the actual release day. Now we're doing the countdown to some new material. One last bit of news before we get into the meat of the on the horse of this episode. Dan, you've had got a little update on our favourite topic, Anita Ward's song.
Yeah, so one of our commenters, Harry Williams 3417, we were talking about the artist Anita Ward and whether one of her songs would appear in the GTA soundtrack after GTA branding appeared on the artist's Spotify page. Now, Harry Williams adds, he says, on the Anita Ward thing, I work at a record label, and usually the only way to change the image is through a Spotify for Artists page. It says you'd need to be the label/publisher on her team to get access to it. So his reading was, it's most likely that someone in the team got carried away, perhaps because they've been approached by Rockstar's music team or whatever. He says, but there's all kinds of paperwork and agreements that need to put in place, and it might be under NDA, etc., which might explain the slightly weird statement they put out last week, which, you know, go back to last week's show, it was very bizarre, legally sounding statement. But I think what he's essentially trying to say is that no smoke without fire. The only people who really could change this page are the record label people, and it could be they've got wind of something happening and have just jumped the gun. So, interesting insight, Harry. Thank you.
Yeah, let's wait and see if that song appears anywhere once the game releases, I guess, because as we think, it will only be a soundtrack song rather than anything used in the trailer, but who knows? Okay, then, let's move on to this week's big topic, which is Strangers and Freaks, very exciting, and the social media clips that we saw in the trailer, because we are putting two and two together and saying some of the things that we've seen in the trailer could lead to Strangers and Freaks missions that you get to play in the game. Now, on my count, I think we saw 7 identifiable, like, real-life things in the GTA 6 trailer that have been GTA-ified So they've taken real life incidents and made them into like little social media clips that we saw in the trailer. So we're going to go through these and have a little bit of a deep dive into each one and see what we can learn from them. The first one is the giant gator in the swimming pool. This, in real life, we're going to have to talk a lot about what happened in real life locations, dates and things, but you'll know which clip we're talking about. We can probably put it on screen so you get a sense of what it looks like compared to the real life incident. So this happened in Palm Beach Gardens, which if Rockstar are putting these locations, matching them up with where they happened in real life in the GTA 6 map, this is one of the northernmost locations that we have seen, and it's right over on the east side of the map is where Palm Beach Gardens is in real life. Before we get any further into this, you should caveat this in saying, of course, Rockstar can move all of these things around. They're not necessarily taking place in any relation to the locations where they happened in real life, but they would have been using them as a reference point. So it is interesting to look at them. Now, this one happened on April the 13th, 2019, and the FWC, which I think is like the wildlife thing, has noted that at this time residents need to be even more cautious around this time of year because it's alligator mating season when the reptiles are more active than usual. So if we want to, push that out into our GTA 6 is going to have a calendar system, maybe around April time, you got to watch out for more alligators. Dan, what do you think about the location of this? As you can see, Palm Beach Gardens is way to the north of, Miami and all of the things that we have seen.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing, and we'll see this as we explore all of these sort of strangers and freak style incidents, is the dispersion around the map suggests that Leonida, or whatever, the full extent of it could be much bigger than perhaps we're considering, which would be incredible. And I also think it would show that if they are strangers and freaks missions as we're describing them, they will be a clever way to incentivize or push people to explore. So essentially, ways to force you to go out to the bit you'd never been, or up to this swamp, over this mountainside, into this place. So I think it's quite a clever way to use these incidences, really. But it's so hard. It's so hard to speculate on what we haven't seen. And as clever as the GTA mapping project crew are, they are really working off a mix of real life geography and what we know to be true in the trailers. So I don't want to speculate too much on how far north this could actually push us.
No, and I think this one does, fall into the area that we think the map is going to be in pretty much, because the redneck mud park that we've seen, the hillbilly thing in the trailer, is basically all the way over the other side, on the west side of the map, towards Fort Myers in real life. So it puts it in line, but again, I think as we go through these things, some of the locations are like quite a long way out.
Yeah, and actually, when you look at the real life Florida, Palm Beach Gardens is like high to the north and the east. But if they were to include an area such as Orlando, which we haven't seen right so far, but obviously Orlando is home to a lot of very famous theme parks that you might expect to feature in some kind of parody fashion.
It's so far, though, isn't it?
But it's so far.
So far.
But I mean, with a little bit of geographical trickery, you could make whatever Leonida's version of Orlando is, north, but not as north as it is IRL.
Yeah, move it all the way down.
Like sort of scrunch it down a little bit. And Rockstar do play fast and loose a little bit with geography. They are approximations. So, like, in real life, Palm Beach Gardens, where the alligator is like about halfway up that side of the coast, and another halfway up again is Orlando. I don't think the in-game will be as much expanse in-game.
No.
But part of me feels like if they don't incorporate Orlando or the theme parks, that's going to be a bit of a miss. Let's see. I mean, that's such a dense undertaking, isn't it? And probably an absolute legal minefield. But they've looked at it and gone, we just can't tackle it. It's too. But it just feels like you would have a question certainly in the Rockstar boardroom about, do we tackle Orlando and the theme parks within it?
And I guess if we refer back to last week's episode when we were talking about the Reddit account, well, look who's back, who predicted the trailer song and then went on to maybe speculate about things that they wanted in the game. They said that the map is actually like something like nothing like what we think it's going to be, and so far the indications, we do know what it's going to be like, but if they were going to include like Orlando and or Tampa in there as well, I think that would justify saying, we didn't really expect this to happen, and here it is. Like, that would be quite the surprise.
And like Rockstar described GTA 6 in their official, blurb as the biggest and most immersive. So we questioned beforehand, would this truly be the biggest? Would it be most immersive? No, it's both. Biggest and most immersive. So, wow, where will this end?
All right, well, let's go on to our next social media image, and this is the one with the woman twerking on a car. Now, actually, this has happened a few times, but I think the one that this is referencing is from Billy Corbin, who posted this clip on Twitter and used the caption, "As social media has taught us, twerking is forever. It is a timeless tradition." He posted this on March the 14th, 2017, which puts it in line with the gator in the swimming pool. And I think these dates are going to match up as we go through. I think what we're seeing here is the research that Rockstar were doing for these kind of events in GTA 6 probably happened sometime between 2017 and 2019.
Yep.
Which, even thinking about that now, is 6 years before the game comes out. That's not to say that things that have happened after those dates can't be in the game. Of course they can go, hey, this fun thing happened last year, let's find a way to incorporate it. But there's a good chunk of things here that are all happening around the same time, which sort of pins the time that they were doing research for this down to a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, I think it's only been active research. They'd have locked the location and said, right, let's swamp all our knowledge and research around this area. That's still, by the time the game comes out, potentially 8 years from when the game came out, which is crazy, and and is only midway through the development potentially. So wow.
Now this happened on Miami's MacArthur Causeway, which is basically right in the middle of all of the other scenes that we've seen on the map. It's down by like Dodge Island, etc., on the docking bit.
Yeah,
you can pretty much match this up to like the location if you have a look at it. So I think this is a given, right? And whether or not this is like a one-time occurrence in the game or people will be doing it all the time, not sure. But this kind of thing happened around spring break, apparently. So when people take the trip down to Miami for spring break, there's a lot of this kind of thing going on. So will it happen on more than one occasion? Probably.
Yeah, I don't know. And it does raise a question about how might spring break be represented within GTA, because that's for many, a fond and amazing annual tradition. To others, I suppose, a annual celebration of outright lunacy. So somewhere between those two posts is the truth, I imagine. Like I did with my dad head on, I looked at it and went, oh, I'm glad that's not my daughter riding on that car. And also, like, what an incredible health and hazard to be semi-naked atop a speeding vehicle. But, each to their own, such is the colour and texture of life. So good luck to her.
Right. Well, yeah, so the location of that one, pretty easy to pin down. The next one is not so much. This is the alligator in the convenience store, which isn't actually one of the sort of social media clips, but it is quite a recognisable clip from the trailer. You see it on the CCTV. I'm not sure from looking around that this actually happened, but there's a couple of things that are similar. So at one point, a man did carry one into a convenience store when he was looking for beer. This was in July 2018 in Jacksonville. So if you look at Jacksonville on the map, it's actually, I'd say too far north for this to be taking place on anywhere close to the GTA 6 map. There is another alligator that got close and ended up in a parking lot. This was outside a Publix grocery store in Pinellas Park. And apparently, that is not the strangest part of the story. Because according to police, this is such a a great way of writing a news report. The officer responding to the area actually saw the alligator as it was walking down the sidewalk, and it was obeying all traffic laws. That is what the lieutenant said when he came across the alligator.
I mean, you want to arrest him, but he's just a normal law-abiding alligator out for a morning stroll. So what can you do?
So that one in the parking lot happened reasonably recently, actually, May the 11th, 2023. This was also actually way north, but nearer to Tampa. So I guess the question on this is, we've got Jacksonville and Tampa, both with alligator incidents. Do we think, as we just discussed, that the map is going to go all the way up to Jacksonville? I'm going to throw it out there and say no. Will it go up to Tampa? Well, if they're including Orlando, then yes. In some capacity, maybe they'll move Tampa down, like we were saying. But do you feel that that's still on the cards?
Yeah, I think if they go as far as Orlando, even with truncated geography, you're kind of obliged to include Tampa, unless you just pretend it doesn't exist. What that means in terms of attractions, a big NFL team that won the Super Bowl as recently as 2021. Again, it's sort of an area of tourist attraction-y style basis. I don't know, Rockstar, surely, as big as they want this game to be, how many city-style locations do they want to map? And it must get to a stage where you go, well, we've kind of done cities somewhere else. Do we want to build another huge one up on this side of the coast? I don't know. But you are right. I think some nod towards Tampa would make sense if they're going for Orlando.
Yeah, because, what we're talking about there then is it's basically three major cities. We're going to have Orlando, Tampa, and Miami, which is a massive undertaking. But maybe it will be in the same way that you can't get to them all the time, and there might be some things that take place in those cities, but you'd be a bit sad then, wouldn't you, that you wouldn't be able to go back to them? You'd have another North Yankton situation.
This is back to San Andreas. By the time you get to Las Venturas, you feel like they finished that in the last 3 weeks of development. That's essentially the city from Blazing Saddles, where they made it all out of cardboard and no one's allowed to go through a door. So I don't know. Let's see.
Okay, the next thing we've got is the naked man robbing a gas station. Let's start with this. Happened in 2022, so actually pretty late. And a naked man in Florida who was armed with a machete when he allegedly tried to steal another man's clothes was arrested on Monday morning at a D-Land gas station, according to the Volusia. Waiting for a correction. We're saying yes.
I can't say yes or no, so let's go with that.
Well, whoever, I know we've got a few listeners that live down Florida way, so please correct me. That was according to the Volusia Sheriff's Office. This is a thing that actually happened. It looks very similar to the trailer shots. But again, Volusia County is further north than Orlando, which, I think as we're going through these things, there are all of these incidences, probably not a word, take place really, really far to the north. So, I'd like to believe that all signs are pointing to, wow, there is going to be something further up there. But then my, production hat on says, wow, that's so big and so much to do.
And it's a difference between you can have a naked man Strangers and Freaks mission, but he can kind of be anywhere.
Yeah.
With alligators, there's a degree of geographical pinning where they may not live in a city centre shopping district per se, so you want to be near swampland or something where they could actually be. But they could take this incident and just put it somewhere else.
And I think that's probably what's going to happen with most of these, assuming that the map is, even if the map is what we think it is, there's definitely places where all of these things can exist within the confines of where we think we're going to be travelling around. So let's take a look at Naked Man Gardening.
Oh, let's.
Now, amazingly, for those who didn't know, Miami has been proclaimed the naked gardening capital of America. Unfortunately for them, that was only in September 2018, so I don't know what happened in the years since then, but maybe it just got proclaimed the naked gardening capital of America, and that's it forever. You just get one award. That is not where this is from, I don't think. This is a Florida man continues gardening naked. This is a news report. Despite neighbors' pleas to stop, the miffed residents told a news outlet that they've called the Martin County Sheriff's Office, but the man continues to do guard work naked. And Martin County, again, is the northernmost point that we've seen on the map so far. If, you can put naked gardening man wherever you want on the map, right? It's going to be funny wherever.
Yeah, and also, naked gardening, are you insane?
In Miami, Dan, it's lovely weather.
Well, no, but what do you do with gardening? You're usually holding extremely dangerous, sharp searing or cutting equipment, right? Now, I would not want to be in a scenario where I pop down and there's, one of the rosebuds or tulips is protruding and I take a casual snip and then I'm spending the rest of my life in A&E. So please, naked gardeners, let us know how you circumnavigate such a challenge. I would advise the wearing of good safety wear at all times in the garden. That's, again, that's just the dad in me. That's all I'm saying.
Now, actually, if you look at this instant on the real life map, Martin County is just above Palm Beach Gardens, which is where Alligator Pool man happened. This, I think, does still fall within the confines of where we've drawn the line across the northernmost bit of the map so far. So this could actually exist in that location. Again, whether they move it or not, who knows? But I can't wait for next week's comments of someone going, I'm a naked gardener, and actually you just need to do X, Y, and Z.
Bring it on.
Perhaps the most recognisable one we will move on to now, Hammer Lady. Now, this happened in June 2020, but the one that is compared to the trailer image, which it almost certainly is her, was actually from Hatsworth in LA, in Los Angeles. So it didn't actually happen in Florida at all. So I think this is a sign of Rockstar saying, hey, look, we know about all of these cultural moments and we're going to find a way to put a lot of them in the game, whether they happened in the location you think they did or not. So it does give them then a lot of freedom to say, yeah, all those other ones, we're just moving them around the map.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud about Rockstar always got their finger on the pulse and satire. It's got to the stage where they don't even need to try. They just need to point reality back at the game. And that's all they're doing, is saying this is a thing that happened. All the commentary is contained within.
Which is very much the case for the Florida Joker, who we've seen a lot. I mean, he's tried to milk his appearance in this trailer for ages. So we're not going to talk about it too much. But he obviously went viral in 2017 for his mugshot after he was arrested in Pinellas County. Now that is east of Tampa in real life. Again, maybe the signs are pointing that we are going to get an extra city or two and the geography is going to slightly move around. But I don't really want to talk about the Florida Joker too much, just in case he watches this show, of course.
Well, I mean, you could get a flight and then, if I was doing any naked garden, I would not want to be around him at that particular time. What made me laugh is that Florida Joker said he was giving up his $10 million GTA 6 lawsuit.
What?
Because he's now decided he wants to voice the character, which is a classic. I suggest a man negotiating with himself rather than Rockstar themselves. Of course, were you to come into my house while I was naked gardening, my sympathies lie with you, Mr. Florida Joker.
And the final one that we're going to have a look at here is all of the motorbikes doing wheelies and driving around the streets. This happens almost every year, but there's lots of reports from 2018, which again falls into the date range of when this research would have been happening. There's news reports of authorities warning people against participating in the so-called Wheels Up, Guns Down MLK ride-out this year, as an ATV rider who was involved in a crash on Sunday is facing charges. Now, this is a thing that happens every year around South Florida. Like, people take to the streets on their ATVs and their motorcycles on a ride out on Martin Luther King Day. It's happened a lot in recent years. Since that incident, police and the Florida Highway Patrol has been saying that they're going to do all they can to stop it. Obviously, in GTA 6, it's still happening. Maybe that's a thing that is part of, an ongoing storyline or something that appears in the game every so often. But it's a sure sign that these type of events, I think, are going to be referenced. And this is a thing that happens every year at the same time of year. So it's, I would say on a cycle of a GTA year, you're probably going to see it once or twice, or once, and be like, oh, that's that thing that's happening again. Whether they specifically date it or not, I guess is up for debate.
Yeah. But in terms of like the cadence or frequency, that would make sense.
Yeah. So those are the things that we've quickly had a look at. The 6 or 7 real life events that were reflected in the trailer. I guess the overall takeaway on this is that all of these things, as we said, happened pretty much between 2017 to 2019. The Hammer Lady from, Well Look Who's Back, that happened in June 2020, so that could have been towards the end of the research period. But as we say, if something significant like that happens, I think Rockstar are going to try and find a way to put that kind of thing in. The only thing that has happened I want to touch on really recently, which I really hope they get in the game, is that there was a Florida man who went viral on February the 23rd of this year. So here's a challenge for you, Rockstar. He went viral for catching a shark with his bare hands while fishing. And there is actually an image of him holding a massive shark.
I just saw that and thought, liar.
Well, I mean, he's got a shark, Dan.
Yeah, sure. But was he swimming and just wrestled one out like it was a goldfish?
He was fishing. He's caught a fish.
I mean, look, it's a strange world. But I did look at that and think, wow. Maybe I'm jealous that I haven't caught a shark with my bare hands.
So I'd love to be able to be walking around one of the beaches or one of the bay areas and just see a man there wrestling with a shark, and then just hold it up as you walk up to him and be like, hey, look what I've done. And that's the start of the fishing minigame in GTA 6. So there are quite a few other Strangers and Freaks things, a lot of things that happen, obviously, like Florida as a whole. There's quite a lot of crazy things that happen down there. There is a whole nother episode we can do about those type of things, and do we think they're going to appear in the game? What kind of things do we think we're going to come across? But I think we'll save that for another episode, because there's quite a lot of things I want to talk about, and a lot of them are so crazy that we might have to visit the Rockstar boardroom and see if we're going to get them into the game or not.
Yeah, and actually some of them are absolutely barnstorming real-life mysteries, so I think that they would be super fun to investigate.
Well, in that case, Dan, unless there's anything to add for this week's show, I'm going to say that thank you all very much for watching. Please let us know if you've seen any other crazy things that you think are going to happen in GTA 6 or be referenced in GTA 6. Let us know what you think about the map movement and any of that stuff. Leave your comments below. You can follow us on Twitter at GTAVOclock. If you have any tips or thoughts, please get in touch on there and in the comments below. Dan, thank you.
Final thing I wanted to throw in as well, obviously, thank you. A few people in comments had noted that obviously GTA 5 o'clock is essentially a podcast. It's chattier. GTA 6 o'clock is essentially a podcast. It's chattier. Some people saying, oh, it would be good if you did some shorter shows that were really quick. Now, our time is finite, and actually doing a shorter show takes longer than doing a longer one. But if you would like us to start exploring some shorter bites, we did start doing this with outtakes on the FGS YouTube channel. Let us know if you'd like to see some shorter, tighter shows. Can't promise anything on a near horizon, but it's something we can consider and look at if you want us to look at just topics and one-off videos.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for listening this week. Don't forget, you can follow us on all those social channels, and please subscribe because it really helps us out. We will be back next week on Wednesday at 6 p.m. for another episode of GTA 6 o'clock.